Hey guys, it's Jessica, and today we are going to talk about darn it, I bought it. I told myself, Jessica, you do not need another palette. But I was like, Jessica, it's your job to review, and a lot of people are asking about it, so I bought it. We're going to put this on today. You see it on. I'll show you me applying it today. We're going to talk through this palette. Do you need it? It is $45. It is, if I didn't say it out loud, the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry Palette. Brand new. They're selling it at Sephora, Ulta, AnastasiaBeverlyHills.com. Not sponsored, bought with my own money. Genuinely want to share my thoughts on this palette. So I brought a few buddies to compare. I've got my beloved Soft Glam palette. I am a neutrals girl to the max, max. I love this palette so much. It's traveled with me to tons of different places. I use it weekly, if not daily. I love it. It's got everything I personally need for an everyday look. Again, I love neutrals. Now, I also have the Modern Renaissance palette, which is absolutely gorgeous. I think quality-wise is amazing. There's a reason people talk about it. But I find that I only use that half of the palette. Know what I mean? That's who I am. I think these are beautiful, and I do use some of them, obviously, but the reds and the pinks, it's just not always my cup of tea. I'll use them from time to time. I think they're gorgeous, but not my cup of tea. So if you're like me, this review will be very helpful for you. If you love color, I'm going to try to keep that in mind. I know that not everyone loves neutrals, but for me, I know a lot of people are like, I feel like this palette looks boring. And when I saw it, I thought, boring's my middle name because I love it. I loved the way it looked. The only thing that threw me was that pink, and I'm like, oh yeah. Like you covered up, you're like, oh yeah. But then the pink is kind of fun too. So, and again, like I said, I know that people like color. Packaging wise, it is glittery, but of course the glitter's not coming off. It's not that kind of packaging. It feels very nice. It's the standard Anastasia packaging where it magnetizes a little bit shut, same size as the other ones, etc. But of course, this one's not gonna get dirty as easily as these microfiber-ish velvety ones do. So love that. It comes with a dual-ended brush. To be honest with you, I have not used it. I've used the Anastasia brushes before. They are actually not bad at all. This one's more of like a crease brush. This one's more of like a shader, you know, pack on the color brush. They're just not, I don't love them as much as my other brushes. So I'm like, why go through it when I know I have what I need? But I do think you can use them and still get a really nice look. I don't think they're bad. Let's look up close at this palette. Let's look at some swatches, all of that before we get into the look I did on my eyes. This has 7 mattes, 7 shimmers. They're all kind of mixed within. They have this beautiful light beige color called Fresh that I love to use on my brow bone. I'll set my entire eye primer with it. They also have this matte called Twig, which is more of a cool toned light medium shade. Again, I like to use that in my crease. The next matte they have is Dystopian, which is this beautiful deep brown that I used today on my outer corner. Then they have this light, almost salmon color, well, I guess more of a dark salmon color called Bloom, which is a gorgeous color. Then they have Slate, which is a gray. What a rare find in an eyeshadow palette to have a gray. And like, it's a true cool gray. And then Birch is my favorite for the crease. It's a beautiful, warm, light brown. And then Noir is a standard super black matte. Then looking at the shimmers, Anastasia's shimmers are my favorite. However, the mattes really impress me in this palette as well. The shimmers are my favorite in her palettes because they're just different than other palettes I've used. You can wear them wet and they're unbelievable, but they are just as beautiful not wet. And honestly, most of the time when I'm getting ready, I don't spend the time to wet my brush and do all that. Not that it takes that much more time, but it's just one of those things that it's a little more inconvenient. So I typically grab the shimmer in any palette with my finger and I pat it onto the lid. I do that with this and I absolutely love the look it gives with any of the shades. So this is a palette to keep in mind fallout. I don't think the fallout is anything abnormal for shimmers like this that really do have kind of a, there is kind of a glitter quality to some of these. Now today I did my face makeup first and it was fine. I brushed it away and there really is like no fallout to speak of, but it does have some fallout. So just keep that in mind. We've got this gorgeous shade called Pearl, which is a very light champagne, almost white color. It has a gold shift to it though, which I think is really, really pretty. This is more of a shadow topper in my opinion. You can wear it wet and it will pack a punch, but I like to wear it just kind of lightly tapped on top of other shadow, and it just kind of brightens the area a little bit. Then you've got the shade Cinder, which is kind of a bronzy, a light bronze color. It's awfully similar, however, to Teak, which is what I'm wearing on my lid today. Very, very similar in color. The tone is almost exactly the same. I think that Cinder has a little bit more of a glitter quality to it. Very similar. I kind of wish they would have maybe replaced Cinder with another, or just maybe adjusted it so that it was, I don't know, maybe lighter. But Steampunk is this beautiful gold. This is one of the prettiest shades, almost a brassy gold. And then there's Rose Quartz, which is, of course, more of a rosy toned bronze. That one is absolutely stunning. I patted that onto the center of my lid today. Then you've got Ember, which is a deeper bronze, kind of brassy. Then there's this interesting shade, Cyborg. And this is kind of it swatches kind of similarly to Pearl from earlier, but it has this kind of taupe quality to it that is so cool. It's a very unique shade. And that's that. I think there is not, in my opinion, a singular dud in this palette, which is very rare. Do I think there are shades I might not wear as much? Sure. Do I wish that they maybe replaced Cinder or Teak because I think they are very similar? Yeah, I don't think they're different enough, but I think these are gorgeous. So for the look I did today, let me walk you through what I did and I'll show you me applying it. So I applied Fresh, that light beige, all over my lid. I'd already put my eye primer on. I just used the Urban Decay Primer Potion because I know it's foolproof for me. It works really well. After I did that, I ended up taking the shade Birch, which is that warm brown, and I put it all throughout my crease, not really worrying too much about placement because this is kind of acting as a buffer to kind of make everything blend together. Then I took the shade Teak, which is that beautiful bronze, and with my middle finger, I patted it onto all over the lid space. And then I took a fluffy brush and kind of fluffed it into the crease to make sure it all, again, blends a little bit more seamlessly. Then I took the shade Dystopian, which is this beautiful deep brown. I put it into the outer corner and a little bit onto the lid space towards the outside. And then I blended it in. I do think as you blend this, it starts to look almost black in a way. I don't mind that as much, but it is something worth noting. It doesn't keep that brown tone when you're mixing it with the other shades I used. Then I took the Rose Quartz shade on my finger and I just patted it onto the center of my lid just to add a little bit of dimension. Then I took Birch and I put that on the lower lash line just to add a little bit of shadow down there, and I love the warmth of that shade. And then I took Fresh, again, that beige, and I put it on my brow bone, and I even put a little bit on my inner corner to kind of brighten that area because it is a matte, light shade. I think it works, and just kind of blended all of that together. This is one of those palettes that I think is fantastic. I don't see myself ever decluttering this unless it like went bad. It's just that good. It's got these just like everything I could ever need for a look and then some. And for me, I feel like a lot of palettes will either really kill it on the matte side when it comes to shades and formula, or they'll really kill it on the shimmer side. But this one does both for me, and that's why I feel like it is worth the money. However, I'm aware that it's overwhelming with all of the, first of all, just all of the palettes out there, but also the great Anastasia palettes. So I wanted to specifically talk about Soft Glam versus Sultry because I think that that is what most people will be grappling between. I think that Sultry is a warmer palette. When you look at them side by side, this is Soft Glam over here. I think that it just has warmer shades. It has gorgeous shimmers, and it even has this shade called Sultry, which I have to assume, like if you look at the outer packaging here, it looks just like that Sultry shadow right there. So I'm assuming it was maybe the inspiration. I haven't read that, but I would have to assume that's what it is. If you're really into warm shades, I think that Soft Glam might be the one for you. But I don't think that this Sultry palette is just a cool tone palette. I feel like, yes, the look I did today is maybe slightly more cool toned, but with that Birch shade there and that Bloom shade, I do think you can still get warm looks with it. For me, I'm somewhere in between and I like both. And I feel like I can do both with Sultry more than I can with Soft Glam. And I do think one thing that I felt was missing with the Soft Glam, and I didn't realize it until I tried the Sultry palette, is that we've got Fairy and Glistening here that are kind of similar shimmers, but they're the only light shimmers that are in here other than like the really yellow bronze I don't use as much. And then Rose Pink and Sultry are pretty, but I felt like I wanted more kind of champagne-y shades. And I feel like with Pearl here, and then even with Cyborg, even though it's more taupey, I feel like those are shades that I will use a lot that weren't in the Soft Glam palette. And then I think Rose Quartz is a better version of Rose Pink, because Rose Pink is shimmery-ish, but Rose Quartz has a little bit more punch. I almost feel like Rose Pink is more satin, if you will. And then there's Rose Quartz. And it's definitely, I mean, quartz is the perfect name for it. So I think in the end, if I were battling them head to head, it's a toss-up. And again, neither one of them quality-wise is better than the other. I just think for me, this one's more my speed. There's more options when it comes to shimmers, and then it has everything I need with mattes, so that wouldn't be an issue. I do, however, like that you do have in the Soft Glam this dusty rose color. I think is gorgeous. I wish I could take it out and put it in there. And there's certainly more of a gradient when it comes to matte warm tones in Soft Glam. So it's going to come down to which do you need. If you already have one, do you need the other? Not necessarily. Unless you bought Soft Glam and you thought this is too warm for me, then I do think you'd like Sultry. Or if you don't own either and you know you like cool and warm, I think you go with Sultry. Guys, they're both so good. And of course, then there's the Modern Renaissance. This one is beautiful as well, but I find myself not using it as much because, like I said, a lot of these kinds of shades I can find in these other two palettes and then some, and I feel like I use all of the shades in the other palettes more than this one. So I know that that's a lot of info to throw your way. I hope that my review was helpful. I feel like I kept going back and forth, but at the end of the day, I do like the Sultry one better. But I hope I explained why. And other than that, if you enjoy these kinds of reviews, if you find them helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to catch more of them, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.